The committee will come to order. There are still some guys that are on their way back. I will seek to endeavor not to vote until they get back. But we're going to move forward with the testimony. Could we go back to those that are in support of the bill? Tom and Amanda, I need a couple of things. First, come up. Why don't you answer the question about whether or not those that were exempt in the Acts of Assembly of the budget last year, which goes back to the former language, has been in code for the budget for many years, over a decade. Are those people, David, you may want to care about this, are those people exempt?
Mr. Chairman, I would say under the substitute as presented, no, but I believe council can draft an amendment to clarify that they would not be subject to the Friday off before Labor Day.
Okay, and Tom, can you do that? Can you tell us what that adjustment to the substitute is? David, you see what you think about this, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I think that I'm probably, the substitute has been adopted, it's before us. I think that what I'm probably going to do is be offering amendments because and the issues that I've got, the primary ones are, one, I don't want to require my school divisions that currently have the waiver and are choosing to have a 3-day holiday, which is what most everyone would normally do unless an industry was telling them to do otherwise. I want them to be able to continue doing that. Secondly, the substitute that's before us, I've got issues with the second enactment clause. It starts off pretty good, saying that if you were granted a waiver, you'll be fine. But then it says, and opened prior to August 20, 2018, may continue to set their school calendar then. Okay. That's problematic because I've got some school divisions that chose not to use the waiver this year, and then because they didn't do it, they wouldn't be able to in the future.
Tom, can you fix those issues? Tom, are we okay with fixing it? Because that's what was in the budget, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Tom, can you work on that? We don't have to adopt it right now, but can you work on that, sir?
Yes, Tom?
Yeah, Tom.
Yes, sir. I got it.
All right. Senator Chase, who do you have up? And let's start that process. If you don't mind, guys, we're going to put a 5-minute clock on this. I know we've got COPN and some other things coming up, so we're going to do that. So welcome, and we'd love to hear from you.
Hello, I'm Brad Capps. I'm the chairman of the board of Virginia Restaurant Lodging and Travel Association, also representing the Hotel Association of Virginia Beach. We support the amended bill. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming by.
Good morning, Catherine O'Donnell from Richmond Region Tourism. We represent the counties of Chesterfield, Hanover, Henrico, Powhatan, the city of Richmond, and the town of Ashland, and we support the amended bill. Thank you.
Thanks for coming by today. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Morning, Chairman. Eric Terry, the president of the Virginia Restaurant Lodging and Travel Association. As you recognize, we've made a very significant step, I think, towards offering something that really does accommodate many of the schools, and so, you know, as an industry, it will, you know, we will feel a little pained from this, but we, as we said last year, when we came before you, that we're willing to step up to the table, and so as an industry, you know, we do support this, and we appreciate any consideration. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for coming by. Hello, welcome.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Susan Gaston on behalf of the Greater Williamsburg Tourism and Chamber Alliance. I'm representing York County, the city of Williamsburg, and James City County. We appreciate all the time that's been taken on this bill in the off session and during this session, and we support the bill. Thank you.
I think that's a first to hear you say you support it. Welcome.
Hello, Angie Busick on behalf of the City of Virginia Beach, and we also support this bill.
Good, thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the bill? If not, those that have concerns about the bill, if you would come forward, and we would be glad to hear from each of you in 5
Mr. Chairman,
minutes.
Ron Jordan representing Loudoun, Norfolk, and Chesapeake, and the de facto facilitator of our negotiations on this. There is not peace in the valley. This bill that's embodied in Senator Chase's bill is the latest offer from the hospitality industry. It was our plan this weekend to respond to that. You have a bill coming over from the House that you're still going to have a vehicle. Our intent was to continue to work on this. We've come a ways. We've come a good ways on both sides. Everybody's been working in good faith. But the issue raised by Senator Suderline is a particular concern. We feel very strongly that those who have a waiver should keep it. The substitute, quite honestly, attempts to get at the big Northern Virginia school divisions and to undo or modify the waiver that they currently have.
Great. Are you in planning District 8? I just don't know. Are you in there or not?
Loudon is, yes, sir.
Yes, okay. So you will have a bill coming up
There is
also.
another one. There's
I
lots
understand.
of them.
You like that
Thanks.
one. Okay, very good. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Stacey Haney on behalf of the Virginia School Boards Association. We do not support the substitute that is in front of you. We were negotiating in good faith at the request of some of the senators on this committee with the tourism industry. And as I hope you can tell, we were all blindsided by the substitute that was offered through no fault of Senator Chase's. But we were all blindsided by it, when we thought we were negotiating in good faith. So we don't support the substitute that's before you. I believe that Senator Suderline may be offering some additional amendments that get a little closer to what we were negotiating for, but this isn't what, there's not peace in the valley, and we think that additional amendments are needed in order to protect school divisions.
Senator Peterson.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. If you're not satisfied by this, what do you want? You want essentially unlimited discretion to open the schools at any point?
Well, Senator Peterson, Mr. Chairman, Senator Peterson, yes, our preference would be to repeal the entire thing, but we were negotiating in good faith so what, no, that's not, yes, that's what we want. That's what the bill originally would have done. But what we were negotiating for was to grandfather all the school divisions, which this bill doesn't do. All the school divisions that currently have waivers would be grandfathered. What we had proposed was no earlier than the second Monday in August, and not eliminating some of the waivers that are being eliminated in the current bill.
Okay, so just to restate, if I might, you want to keep all the current waivers, and you want unlimited discretion for each school division to open all the way up to the second week of August, which I assume would be somewhere between August 8th to August 12th. That's effectively what you want.
That was our last proposal, and we were in the middle of negotiations. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Smith, Superintendent's Association. We're in opposed for the reason stated. And you need to understand that high schools are being asked to do more and more on an individual basis, and to be more and more flexible with their scheduling into what students do and can and cannot do. This bill, even though it opens 14 days earlier, for those school divisions that have a waiver that would lose it and are on a 4x4 block schedule, they would not be able to end their first semester prior to the Christmas holidays. That would be an impairment in instruction and assessment, and we would like more flexibility in that. So, yes, sir.
I'll pause your time. So the block schedule, how many school divisions have the block schedule?
I can't tell you off that. I know a good number do. In a block schedule, you can earn up to 32 credits in your high school career, where in one of the other, whether it's a 6-period or 7-period day, you're around 28 credits.
Great, thanks for your help. That's good. Senator Suderline.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the representative from the School Board Association.
Yes.
Is it not the reason that 21 days is what's needed instead of 14 days? Because that's what would allow 90 days, school days to occur before Christmas vacation, so that if you have a block schedule where you have one set of courses fall semester and a separate set of courses in the spring semester, you'll be able to have the final exams for those courses rather than have a break and then have the exam? Is that not why 21 days matters instead of 14 days?
Senator Suderline, yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks for coming by. Yes, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Michael Malloy, Fairfax County Schools. I've been part of the group that's been discussing this. We're getting closer and closer. Big concern with the substitute that's in front of you from a Fairfax perspective. Fairfax does qualify currently for the weather waiver. We did not start prior to the August 20th date that they've listed here, primarily because it's the first time we've opened before Labor Day. We didn't want to make the leap for our community to go further than kind of incremental steps, so we would actually no longer qualify for a waiver. We would much rather, if something like this were to go forward, to grandfather in everybody who currently has a waiver. Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. Because the substitute does not grandfather in all of the school divisions that currently have waivers, we oppose the bill.
Okay, thanks for coming by. Okay, very good. So with that, we will complete. Senator Chase, if you want to clean up, and then David, we're going to go to you after that, sir.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I would just say this. I do believe that our localities and our teachers should have the flexibility, not business, to determine start dates. I've always felt that way. This bill has been worked on for years and years and years, and my concern is that my high school kids are losing instruction time and are behind their peers on some of the national college board and entrance exams. They're getting, not getting as much instruction time in. This is an issue we're going to have to continue to work on, but why let the best get in the way of the good? I feel like this is a good compromise at this time, a pilot program, if you will, to allow a lot of our schools to open earlier than they are now. And for that reason, Mr. Chairman, I feel like we should at least try this pilot program as a good faith effort to allow our students to get more instructional time before they take those exams.
So I think what you're saying is as a compromise, not a pilot, because it's kind of permanent,
Yeah,
right? So that's
well,
fine.
it's kind of permanent.
Very good. Okay, so with that, Senator Suderline, you have thoughts or amendments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer some line amendments to the substitute that's currently before us. On line 12, I would like to strike 14 and replace it with 21. The number 14 would be replaced with 21 as it appears before the word days. Then on lines 19 through 21, I'd like to unstrike that language that says the school division has been closed an average of 8 days per year during any 5 of the last 10 years because of severe weather conditions, energy shortages, power failures, or other emergency situations. And then the third line amendment would be in the enactment clause on line 64. A period would be inserted after 2011, and then we would strike and that opened the 2018-2019 school year prior to August 20, 2018 may continue to set the school calendar so that the first day students are required to attend is earlier than 14 days before the Labor Day. And so the question I asked the school board representative about speaking to those amendments, if I may. On the 21 days, that's critical because if we don't have 21 days, you can't have the block scheduling that several of our school divisions in the western part of the state already use for instruction. And that's something that's very important, and they'd have to change the course of education for that. So that's why that's important. Unstriking the lines on 19 through 21, that deals with the good cause that so many of the folks fall into. So that should be self-evident why I have an issue with that. And then lastly, what's most significant to me is unstriking the part of the enactment clause that said, and that opened prior to August 20, because there are school divisions that, through their school board that's accountable to the people in their school division, rather than an industry on the other side of the state, they have chosen not to use the exemption this year because they didn't think that it was in the benefit of their school division that year. And this, I'm not someone that says we need to have something that says everyone needs to start before Labor Day, and I'm not someone that says we need to restrict schools from starting from Labor Day. I believe we have school boards that should be able to make that choice, and that is why it's important to strike that language. And I don't like amending another member's bill, but this is something, I don't think this is a compromise, respectfully. I think that this is something that is not representative of those of us who have been working to allow school divisions to have more flexibility, and it's especially problematic for my school divisions in the West that have achieved more of that flexibility. I want to help, Senator Peterson's students and families in Fairfax and let their school division that has a school board that's elected by the people make that decision, but I don't want to do it at the expense of my school divisions. So I move those amendments.
All right, very good. There's a motion on the amendments. Is there a second? Okay. So David, just to be clear, just on discussion, there also potentially are amendments that say that if you had the exemption before, block schedule, whatever, you're going to have it again, right, for those people that were in the budget, which includes all your divisions.
Mr. Chair,
Do you understand that? Is that right?
Mr. Chair,
Senator Peterson?
can we break these amendments up? Because some I like and some I'm not crazy about. So can we take these one by one?
We could. There are more narrow amendments maybe that we could also consider and then add them in, but which one in particular are you?
I support most of the amendments. The one I don't support is the one taking 14 to 21 and making, I mean, I understand your situation in Western Virginia, but I think we're already making a pretty dramatic jump going 14. Going 21 would be, again, I used to say August is the new September. It may be that August is the new July. I mean, we're going to basically get rid of a month of summer. That's a little bit much for me to just change it that much.
Mr. Chairman, just speaking to that, this would be removing the 21 days and not adopting that policy would be telling the school divisions in the western part of the Commonwealth that are currently doing that, that they can no longer go 21 days. And I'd have to go back to them and say, there's fine people in Fairfax, they're now going to be able to start 2 weeks earlier, but you can't have the same school
Mr.
calendar
Chair.
you've had for more than a decade.
Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Peterson?
But if we keep the waivers for those divisions, how would they be? In other words, when you say 21 days, that's a statewide implementation.
That's right. So, Senator Peterson, just to let you know kind of where we are, there's going to be some amendments that says basically, if you had the waiver
You keep the waiver.
in the budget, you get the waiver. Senator Peterson, I don't think that covers all your school divisions, okay? And then if we can offer an amendment after that to say, if you had any waiver, you could do that as well. So those are the two options that we have. David wants, I think, 21 days badly. So is there's a motion and a second that your amendments be adopted, is that correct?
I'm happy to sever the amendments and take them up. If
I would sever.
I'm not sure that's going to help me get the votes, but if at least help Senator Peterson vote for some of them, I'm happy to do that.
I would humbly suggest severing them.
That's agreeable to me.
All right.
Okay, very good. Very good. Severing is going to be breaking them out and reading them, I guess, individually. Senator Peterson, is that where
Yes,
you
sir.
are? There is, David, there's a broader amendment. I'd like to have a substitute motion that amendments that get close, not close, but that get a lot of those can be taken up first, which is the budget guys and the other ones that make sure that all those guys are out. And then you can build on that one. Is that acceptable to you?
So Senator Locke is going to offer an amendment, is that correct?
For Northern Virginia?
I'm happy to, if someone wants to make a substitute motion to consider something else, and then I get to hear that amendment and we can go from
Okay.
there. I think Senator Locke and I usually see the same way on this issue, so I hope
Okay.
it's the same today.
All right, so maybe there's a substitute motion, Carrico, that, there's a substitute motion. Tom, why don't you report what that amendment is, and then maybe we can build on that, 21 days and all your other items.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sulan's amendments were striking 14.
No, Tom, talking about, if you could go to the substitute motion that we consider the amendments that we've talked about, then maybe we can see if the committee is okay with that, and then we can build on top of that with all of David's things.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Substitute motion for the amendments that you are offering is in the enactment clause, after Labor Day, insert additionally, any school division that was granted a waiver pursuant to Chapter 890 of the Acts of Assembly of 2011 shall not be required to be closed the Friday immediately preceding Labor Day.
Okay, so Tom, just to make sure I understand, those that are in the budget, that have been in the budget for a decade, those individuals would continue to have the exemption. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Including the block guys in Salem and those that did not take the exemption, but it was available to. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And point of clarification for me.
It's an or. An or.
And my mistake, Mr. Chairman, and also striking in that enactment first sentence, and that opened the 2018-2019 school year prior to August 20th, 2018.
Okay, does everyone understand those amendments? What it basically says is that if you had the amendments, and maybe more, if you had the amendments in the budget, you continue to have the amendments. Senator Suderline? You have thoughts?
I guess first I have a question for council because the way he read it. Can he just read what the enactment would say straight through, and then I can speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Suderline. So with those amendments, the enactment would read that any school board of a school division that was granted a waiver for the 2018-2019 school year under one of the good cause requirements then in effect pursuant to Section 22.1-79.1 of the Code of Virginia or pursuant to Chapter 890 of the Acts of Assembly of 2011 may continue to set the school calendar so that the first day students are required to attend is earlier than 14 days before Labor Day. Additionally, any school division that was granted a waiver pursuant to Chapter 890 of the Acts of Assembly of 2011 shall not be required to be closed the Friday immediately preceding Labor Day.
At least understand the amendments. It's an attempt to put the budget language back in. Then, David, we can take up individually your amendments if you like, sir.
Okay.
All right, there's a motion on the amendments. And the motion is second. We agree to the amendments. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, those amendments are adopted. So, Tom, would you mind taking up Senator Suderline's amendments more one by one, and we'll consider those?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. His other two amendments, or three amendments, two concepts. The first is striking 14 on line 12, after then striking 14 and inserting 21.
All right, let's stop right
and on
there.
line 66, doing the same.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a motion on that, Senator, on David, on changing it from 14 to 21? There's a motion and a second. This motion is second that be agreed to. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. No. Why don't we open the roll? Those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will, Senator Howell vote, close the roll. Okay.
Yeas 2, nays 13.
213, that bill, that is amended. Senator Suderline, no. Which one will we take up next?
Unstrike 19 to 21.
Which has the effect of?
The closing for good cause. It's the good cause provision. It would maintain the good cause provision for schools that have closed an average of 8 days.
Okay. Everyone understand that? Okay. That would open up quite wide, but that may be what we want to do. So all those in favor of that amendment will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 2, nays 12.
2 to 12, the bill, it's defeated. Senator Suderline.
And I think, council, because the previous amendment was adopted, would these not be in conflict now? Isn't my third amendment in conflict with what the committee has already agreed to?
Senator Suderline, I think yes.
Yes, it is. It is. It's just a vote on the bill. All right, very good. Are there any other amendments that any other member has? Senators have additional amendments to this substitute. All of this will be rolled into another substitute for the purposes of a vote. Senator Chase, we've let you go a couple times. If you have 30 seconds, and we're going to vote. You good?
I'm good.
All right, there's a motion on the bill as amended.
No, because This is going to be the current law.
So moved. And there's a second. All right, all those in favor of reporting the bill as amended will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. Wait, no is okay. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 10, nays 4, 1 abstention.
10-4, that is complete. For those of you in Northern Virginia, we're going to take up, if you don't mind, the one related to Planning District 8 after Senator Howe gets here, and kind of take that up in just a few minutes. No, I don't, we may consider unrolling those if you guys figured out how to do it. Vola. Okay, we may, if Senator Howell would like to have that taken up separately, we'll just do it. So if we want, Senator Howell wants to do that, we will do that. So Senator Chase, as you know, we've indicated that if this changes, then what the committee voted for, you will not allow that to go forward. Is that correct? Okay, very good. With that, if the committee will allow us to go to the COPN bills. Not yet. So those of you, how many patrons do we have for COPN? Okay, we have one. Do we have others? Okay. Senator McDougal, Cosgrove has got one. Barker, you have one, right? Senator McDougal, we'll do within reason what you would like, but what we plan to do is to hear from your bill, hear a couple of the other bills, and then we are going to have a public hearing on COPN. You're welcome to stay. Love to have you. And then we're going to have a vote at the end. Is that okay with you, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as y'all aware, we have other committees meeting now, and so I will probably leave you during that process to return to vote over there. Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 1416. Mr. Chairman, when we look at COPN, and certainly there are many opinions, and you'll hear a lot from other individuals today, but it has become very apparent with the increased cost of health care that the strategies that we are currently using are not enough to reduce that cost to our citizens. Mr. Chairman, with this modest approach to COPN, this is elimination of certain specialized procedures. It's not the whole system. I think there are others that have broader bills, but I really wanted to focus on things that can make a dramatic impact. So this is very narrowly focused. It puts in place a permitting procedure instead of COPN, and only for procedures performed at ambulatory surgical centers. They're urological, endoscopic, and eye surgeries. And so it is limited in scope. I think we have there's a Scribner's error as we went through this process, so I think we have one line amendment to make sure that, 2 line amendments to make sure that's clear.
Clerk will report the line amendment.
Mr. Chairman, Senator McDougal, on line 77 through 80, or excuse me, 78 through 80, there's some new language. When the bill was drafted, it exempted those services Senator McDougal talked about twice. We only need to do it once. So strike the new language on 78 through 80. And then on line 138, after ophthalmic, insert your logic or endoscopic.
Okay. Everyone understand the amendment? There's a motion on the amendment. Second. All those in favor will say aye. Opposed, no. And the amendment's agreed to. Senator McDougal.
So, Mr. Chairman, the types of surgeries that are performed in this process are rarely done at hospitals now. And, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the numbers, it's less than 1% at some of our largest institutions. At VCU, it's less than 1%. Centera, less than 1%. Inova, less than 0.5%. And UVA, right around 0.5%. So, Mr. Chairman, again, this is a modest approach, but we need to take other strategies to make sure that individuals have access to these surgeries and have access to them at a reduced cost. This would get us there,
okay,
Mr. Chairman, without being as dramatic as some of the other bills you might hear today. There are a couple people that certainly are in support, but if you're going to hear them later, I'm sure they will stay while I go to another committee.
Yeah, we will hear from them in a little bit. Senator McDougal, thank you for coming, sir. We will
thank you,
let you know how this works out. Okay, up next, Senator Sturdivant, are you still here, sir? Okay. Do you mind talking about your psych bed bill?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Senate Bill 1526. It is a COPN bill relating to psychiatric and substance abuse facilities. This committee reported this bill last year to the floor. And just taking a few steps back on the COPN issue, I recognize that there are people who approach it from different perspectives and different viewpoints, and there are reasonable people on all sides. I would respectfully submit to you, however, that we should, in light of the opioid crisis, the opioid epidemic, really, and the mental health crisis that we're experiencing in Virginia and around the country, that we should really take this area out of the debate, the fight, the disagreement over COPN reform. And so that's essentially what this bill seeks to do, to remove from the COPN process facilities that seek to open to treat those with mental health issues and with substance abuse issues. We've also put in protections in this bill to ensure that quality standards and charity care requirements are met. And so we are making sure that we're increasing access to care even for those who don't have the means to pay for it. And I would note that according to the numbers that we've found, there have been about 150 psychiatric beds that have been denied in Virginia since 2011. And as I know many on this committee know, we have bounced around in the rankings in terms of access to mental health care. We've been 38th in the last several years. We've been 42nd. But neither of those numbers are good or where we want to be, and so this is an opportunity to provide additional access to those who truly need it. And while that COPN reform debate can continue to happen, I would respectfully submit we should move this area out of it and allow the creation of these facilities for additional access for those who really need it.
Senator Sudaline, any questions, Senator Sudaline? We've seen his bill a number of times.
No questions.
Okay, no. Well, thank you. We've seen this bill a number of times, and we have reported this out some and not reported it out some. So, very good. Thank you for coming. You're welcome to stay. We'd love to have you, but it's up to you. Okay. Up next, Senator. We're going to wait on Senator Wagner's bill. We've already sent his smaller bill that will no longer have COPN over to Commerce and Labor. He has the big bill, which just gets rid of it all. We're not going to take it up just quite yet. Senator Cosgrove, would you like to talk about your bill? And then we'll go to Senator Barker. You have two bills. We can hear those. Is that okay? And then we can just get some comment.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 1125, and there is an amendment.
All right. Is it an amendment or a substitute? It's amendment. Amendment. Tom, will you report the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Cosgrove. After line 128, insert second enactment that the provisions of this act shall not apply to any proposed medical care facility as defined in 32.1, 102.1 of the Code of Virginia and amended by this act, for which an application for a certificate of public need for a project as defined in 32.1-102.1 of the Code of Virginia was filed with the Department of Health on or before December 31st, 2017, or for which any appeal on the issuance or denial of a certificate of public need is currently pending in a court with appropriate jurisdiction and was filed on or before December 31st, 2017.
John, can you explain that for us?
Yeah, what it does, it basically takes anything that's in litigation out of consideration of this bill.
All right. Is there a motion on the amendment?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second that the amendment be agreed to. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, and the amendment's agreed to. Senator Cosgrove.
We've seen this bill as well, Mr. Chairman. Basically, this deals with freestanding emergency departments. Basically, freestanding emergency departments almost exclusively are developed in higher income, wealthier areas. The health systems use these to capture market share in competing hospital services. And as a brief example, if I have insurance, which I do, and I go to a freestanding emergency department, they know I have that insurance. And if I need to have further care beyond that ED, they're going to send me to their system hospital. If I don't, chances are they're going to send me to a competitor's system hospital. So that indigent care thing pops in. Basically, we've seen this a good number of times, Mr. Chairman. It just makes good sense to basically take care in these freestanding EDs. People that go into the freestanding EDs may think they're going to a doc in the box and will pay that particular type of price, but that's just not the case. So that's the bill.
I know you've cared about this for a long time, John. Thank you very much. Any questions about this provision or the substitute? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll just wait just a minute. And then, Senator Barker, you mind talking about both of your bills, sir? Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. First bill I'll bring up is Senate Bill 1277. Both of the two bills I have are very narrow and specific types of things. What it would do is establish an exemption from the requirement for a certificate of public need for a period of no more than 30 days for projects involving temporary increase in the total number of beds in a hospital or nursing home situation when the Commissioner of Health has determined that a disaster has caused the evacuation of a hospital or nursing home, and that a public health emergency exists, and there aren't enough beds otherwise to be able to accommodate the people that need to be moved from an existing facility.
Okay. That seems straightforward, right?
Yes.
Senator Barker, you have another bill, sir.
Yes, then the other bill I have is Senate Bill 1722, which deals with a very specific situation in Planning District 8, actually in my district. There was a provision that was enacted into the code in 2010 that allowed a nursing home in a continuing care retirement community to provide, to make available to the public no more than 10% of the beds that are in that nursing home. The nursing home, which is in a large continuing care retirement community, which is its own precinct, that's how big it is. That facility has 180 nursing home beds, so right now they have up to 18 beds that are available to the public. What this would do is to reduce that. They are reducing the number of beds that they operate from 180 down to 61 beds. And what this would do is a cap it at a maximum of 15 beds that would be available to people outside the facility. So the operation would still take roughly slightly fewer total patients than what they have right now.
All right, George, thank you very much. I think that one is also fairly straightforward. I would hope so. So any questions to Senator Barker on that?
All right,
okay.
thank you.
Very good. I'm looking, Mamie, do you mind if we set maybe a 7-minute clock? Is that okay with all of you for both sides on this? And is that okay with most people in the audience? Someone will have to adjust my clock to 7 minutes. I think I can do it up here, actually. They haven't taught me much, but I think they told me that, so. Okay, with that, those that are in favor of the bills, would you kind of come forward and tell us, and you can speak to each individual one, and if that doesn't work for us, we can do something different, but that's what we're planning to do.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Lauren Schmidt speaking this morning on behalf of the Virginia Society for Eye Physicians and Surgeons in support of Senator McDougal's bill, SB 1614. As he already stated, we believe this is a very narrow bill. We see it as not being controversial. It includes just 3 specific lines of service, as you heard, are rarely done in hospitals anymore. He gave you the numbers specifically for ophthalmology surgeries. These procedures can be done safely and easily at a less cost for patients in the outpatient setting. We did have a physician who was unable to be here this morning, but she did want to provide written testimony, which I can give to hand out.
That would be very helpful. Thank you for coming today. Yes, ma'am, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Sarah Rose Wells on behalf of the Medical Society of Virginia. Just standing up in agreement with the previous remarks on Senate Bill 1614 and Senate Bill 1526. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. Yes.
Good morning. Scott Johnson speaking on behalf of the Virginia Healthcare Association. We worked with the Department of Licensure and the VHHA on the mutual aid bill that Senator Barker has and would ask you to support that.
Thank you for coming by. Yes, sir, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Matt Cobb, representing Erickson Living, only on SB 1722, Senator Barker's bill. Senator Barker put it in on behalf of one of our facilities. All the bill does is preserve the status quo, allowing us to serve our own residents who become Medicaid patients.
Well, thank you for coming by today. Yes, sir, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, James Pickrell with the Psychiatric Society of Virginia, standing up in support of Senator Sturtevant's Senate Bill 1526. I don't think I have to remind the committee of the substance use disorder crisis or the mental health care crisis we have now in the Commonwealth. You were kind enough to report this bill last year, and we would ask that you do so again.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming by today. Yes, ma'am, welcome.
Good morning, thank you. I'm Dr. Mary Kay Goldschmidt with the Virginia Nurses Association. I'm the Commissioner on Government Relations. We're 109,000 strong, and we strongly support Senator Sturtevant's bill to increase access to psychiatric care. We rate 40th in the country for access to psychiatric care. We need these beds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming by. All right, are there those that have concerns about the bills? If you'd come forward and share with us, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Brent Rawlings with the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association. Just as an overall comment, I think you all know where the Hospital Association is on COPN. We understand that there is need for reform. We're interested in taking a comprehensive look at this law. Consistently, we've stated we don't like these rifle shot bills, and I think you have a rifle shot approach with Senator McDougal's bill, with Senator Sturtevant's bill on psych, and we've got some separate concerns with freestanding. But again, we need to take a look at COPN. We need to figure out what services should be reviewed and those that shouldn't, but we don't like this rifle shot approach. We've said that consistently. Might be time for us to wrestle the bar, as they say, and I think we're getting to that point. We're welcome to have that conversation, but we need to do it in a comprehensive fashion.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Suderline. Yes.
Which bill, I know the Hospital Association has lots of great relationships in the General Assembly. Which bill have you endorsed on looking at any reforms to COPN in the last few years? So I could look at it to see where might be some place that we could talk about it. What bills have you endorsed that have made any modifications to COPN or even looked at the possibility of making modifications to COPN?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Suderline, the bill that we have consistently supported is the bill that came out of the 2015 work group that's been carried by a couple of different delegates over the years. I know we're all familiar with this bill. It did remove services from COPN review. It put in place an analytical framework to review the services that we're talking about. We can pick and choose those that we like, and when we do that, there's always an interested party behind it. And so we really ought to be looking at this in an objective, evidence-based manner, and that's the approach that we have supported.
So, Senator Suderline, I think you'll remember that may have been Delegate Stolley's bill and others, and basically just streamlined the process for people who currently get COPN, which is one of the reasons why this committee has not been very favorable on that bill. So, in fairness,
That was my recollection. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? Welcome. I'm glad you're here, but anything else?
I just wanted to just touch briefly on the psychiatric bills. It was mentioned about certificates being denied for psychiatric services. Since 2014, there's only been one denial, and those are the beds that were referenced, those 40 beds. There are routinely services approved for psychiatric services. We don't see that as a barrier to psychiatric services in the state. And with respect to the freestanding ED issue, again, that's another service that just needs to be looked at. We need to look at it objectively. The one suggestion we would have on that is that maybe we need to take a look at the regulatory scheme there. There isn't really any clear licensure standard on that. We have informal guidance from the Department of Health as to how those should be regulated, but there's really no clear regulation on that, and that's something that we probably need to look at.
Great. Well done. Thank you for coming. Yes. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Bill Elwood representing Universal Health Services. We operate over 300 acute psychiatric beds in 5 different locations in Virginia. We are specifically opposed to Senator Sturtevant's bill. As you heard, COPN applications for this line of service are being overwhelmingly approved, and denials are very rare. There's not a shortage of psychiatric beds. Just within over 300 beds that UHS operates, as of this morning, there are 76 vacancies in their system. So there's not there's not a shortage of beds. There is a shortage of qualified mental health professionals, and adding more beds only makes that situation worse. Now, the state hospitals are facing some capacity issues, but by law, they're required to be the bed of last resort. This bill does not help that because you're just adding beds to facilities that may not be able to take some of those patients for medical reasons. We are working right now on a proposal to help the state alleviate some of their capacity issues, which would include a partial hospitalization program, which is a lower level of care, which still provides intensive treatment that would be able to keep patients out of acute hospitalization. So we, just to sum up, we do not support Senate Bill 1526.
Perfect. Well done. Thanks for coming. Yes, ma'am. Welcome. You have about 2.5 minutes, everyone.
Hi, my name is Melissa Early. I'm with the Virginia Nurse Association, but I'm also speaking from a personal standpoint. As a mobile crisis counselor, I respond to the emergency room when someone is under an ECO, and there are many, many times when in that 8-hour period that we have been unable to locate an open bed in the Commonwealth. In those times when we can find an open bed, it is often miles and miles away from the locality where I work. And there are programs for children where you must have parental participation. And in order to have a child hundreds of miles away from their home and have that parent's participation, and you can't find a bed within, to be able to get the parent who has no transportation to that location, there is in fact a shortage of beds.
Perfect.
So I'm speaking in favor of Senator Sturtevant's bill.
Okay, and we thank you for coming. Well done. We'll kind of put that one into the positive comment, and we will give you guys an extra minute because she was kind of on the other side and they had a little bit of time. So welcome. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Knoll with McGuire Woods on behalf of HCA Virginia. And to follow up on Brent Rawlings' comments, particularly about the freestanding ED bill, I know that's something that Senator Cosgrove's worked on diligently. Our concern is its applicability statewide when for the freestanding piece of it, you have to get a COPN already for the imaging portion. We know there's something unique going on in your neck of the woods, but that statewide applicability we have concerns about and therefore can't support that recommendation.
I understand. Well done. Thank you. Yes, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Curtis Bird, Chesapeake Regional Healthcare. Regarding Senate Bill 1125, we do support the legislation. Just wanted to point out additionally to what Senator Cosgrove said, these facilities really are located in areas that least arguably need it. At the federal level, the Medicare Payment Advisory Commission has looked at this on a national level, and their concern is such that they're making recommendations to reducing reimbursement rates to these facilities simply because they are under the guise of urgent care, but they're really billing at hospital rates. And so we're not anti-freestanding ED. We just think the state should have a say in whether there's a legitimate need and where it should be located.
Okay, great. Thank you. And you are more favorable. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition? I don't want to make sure that we are fair to those that have concerns. Okay, very good. With that, if the committee will kind of bring their attention, we need Carrico. What we can do is we can go through these bills individually, or let's start, Senator Barker, with your 1277. Everyone bring your attention to Senate Bill 1277 related to nursing homes and hospitals, disaster exemption. Everyone understand that bill? Are there questions about that bill? Okay. There's a motion and a second that we report 1277. All those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
15-0, the bill is reported. Senator Barker, then you had also, I think, a very straightforward one in 1722. And is there a motion second that we pass Senate Bill 1722, which is one of the exemptions ones that we've considered at times? There's a motion and a second that we report 1722. All those in favor will report their votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
15-0, the bill is reported. Senator Cosgrove, your bill, which is 1125, which we just heard about relating to emergency facilities within 30 miles. Is there a motion on that bill?
I'd move that we report the bill.
There's a motion, second, we report 1125. All those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 7, nays 4, abstentions 4.
The bill is reported. Okay, up next would be Senator McDougal's bill. Senator McDougal, just to remind you, has the bill that is related to ambulatory care centers. Some would call it narrow. I think I would, but some would call it narrower bill. Is there a motion to report Senate Bill 1614? Motion and a second that we report 1614. All those, I'm sorry, Senator Barker. Okay. All right, there's a substitute motion, and I'm sure there's a second to PBI the bill. All right, guys, is there a second to PBI the bill? Okay, there's a second to PBI the bill. All those in favor, well, if I could say, this is one that I do hope that we consider voting for, a bit narrow. So I do think that our friends at the Hospital Association, we've been kind of working with you for a long time, and at some point, you know, no to everything is a little tough. So that's my comment as a member. But so the motion is that we would PBI the bill. All in favor of doing that will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. Clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 6, nays 9.
All right, the bill is not PBI'd. Is there a motion that the bill be reported, which is a substitute
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
original motion? All those in favor of reporting the bill will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 9, nays 6.
9-6, that bill is reported. Next, I'd like to take up what is the big bill, which is the Wagner bill, which is 1361. That is an outright repeal of everything. Is there a motion on that bill? There's a motion, second, we PBI that bill. Is there discussion?
Substitute motion
There's a substitute motion. Go ahead, sir.
to report.
There's a motion to report. Is there a second to that? All right, not quite yet. So I'm going to vote against this bill. Back to the original motion. I'm going to vote against this bill. I think we do need, before we take this big action, to have a larger discussion, and I've kind of consistently said that. So I appreciate there will be some that will support and some will oppose. But the motion is that we PBI the Wagner bill, which is 1361. All in favor of PBI will record the vote aye. Those opposed, no. Let me just do this. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 12, nays 2, 1 abstention.
Okay, the bill is PBI'd. Okay, the next one, we've already gotten rid of the Wagner bill. There's a Sturdivant bill. This is a bill that is Senate Bill 1526, related to psychiatric beds in facilities. Is there a motion to report that bill? There's a motion, second, that we report that bill. Is there a conversation about that? Senator Barker.
Mr. Chair, I mean, the issue's been raised about access to mental health care and how our rankings stands with other states. We've actually improved a little bit, but the problem is not beds. The problem is having personnel. So we don't have enough personnel to be able to handle all the needs we have. One of the issues that we face right now is that there are a lot of empty psychiatric beds in community hospitals, but many of them are not available because they can't find the personnel to be able to staff these beds. If we basically make it so that no facility has to come through a certificate of need, we will get additional facilities and we don't have the staff to be able to handle it. It will actually exacerbate our problems rather than help solve the problems.
Okay, very good, very good. I understand.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Black.
Just a quick comment. To me, it's a business decision. if a facility wants to establish additional beds, they better figure out how they're going to staff them before they do it. And I think there's just going to be a market control over that. It's less likely that they're going to build beds if they don't believe that they can actually staff them. So I think it's a very good bill, and we just need to start moving forward on some of these things.
Any other comment? If not, there's a motion and second that 1526 be reported. All those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 8, nays 7.
8-7, the bill is recommended to be reported. Okay. Does that complete all the COPN bills? I believe it does. Is that correct? Okay, very good. We'll do that. And just as way of announcement, in speaking to Senator Locke, Senator Howe, I do now recall, she wanted her bill, which was 1074, and that brings in 1113 on school calendar to be rolled into the new Chase bill. I think I announced earlier that we would take those up, but she wanted hers rolled, and so we will take no other action unless there's a reconsideration on 10005. Okay, with that, we will go to now Senator Stanley, are you here? Maybe someone can reach out to Senator Stanley on his bill as it relates to building modernization in a minute. If not, there's Senator Boysko here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just parliamentary inquiry. I was under the impression we were about to vote on enrolling the bills.
Sir, what's that?
I was under the impression we were about to vote on enrolling the bills. And
We
I
did
saw-
that earlier. We actually did that the first motion when Senator Howell asked us to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing a vote.
Okay, Senator Boysko, are you here? Just want to make sure. Good. Good morning. Welcome. You're up. Welcome. Great to have you here. So without objection, we've heard this bill. I think Finance heard the bill. You're back. Great to have you back. We enjoy having you here. We're going to just put we normally wouldn't hear bills twice in public comment, but we're going to do that. We're going to give you a couple minutes to do that. So we are here. Welcome. You want to just remind us of your bill, which was 1640.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, you will remember that SB 1640 successfully was voted out of this committee. It went to Finance, where there was no fiscal impact. It was my hope that we would take it to the floor, but it seems to have had another path. This bill is very simple. It creates economic opportunity for the hardworking young men and women who have been brought here at no fault of their own, who have followed every rule asked of them, and they are hoping to have the guarantee of in-state tuition.
Okay, thank you. That's good. You always do a great job. Okay, very good. Any other person would just like to give a brief comment? We've only got about a minute, but if there's one person or something like that, not everyone, but maybe welcome. Thank you very much for coming back to the Capitol.
Yep. Hi, my name is Steve Yu. I'm the campaigns coordinator with NACASUC. We're a community organization in Annandale. I am personally a DACA recipient myself, and I work very closely with other DACA recipients and undocumented students who simply can't afford out-of-state tuition, so they either have to work several part-time jobs or they have to take a break from school, or some decide to not attend at all. And I ask you to think of those students when making the vote today. Thank you.
Thanks for coming today. Yes, sir. About 30 seconds or so. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Tom Joyce, Assistant to the Bishop of the United Methodist Virginia Annual Conference. I just want to take a moment to say that we are in favor of allowing these persons to have in-state tuition. We believe it's good for them, but also good for the rest of us who live in the Commonwealth, as they receive a higher education, will pay taxes, et cetera. So we are in support of that.
Thanks for coming
Thank you
by.
very
Well done. I mean, just right on time. So very, very good. Okay. We've heard this bill a number of times. Is there discussion within the committee? Here none. You have discussion? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe because I was the deciding vote last time, it's only fair that I speak today. I supported this bill last time because I felt that those who are here came through no choice of their own, and their desire was to become permanent residents here and to live in Virginia. That was the intent. I have a unique perspective, having worked for 3 congressmen. I understand the federal system is broken. The federal government needs to fix it. Congress needs to get their act together and fix it, because now we have situations like this. What I would conclude by that is I'm still working with an immigration attorney. My sister-in-law is actually an immigration attorney. I've had numerous conversations and dialogue between Senator Newman and my sister-in-law is an immigration attorney. We have not come to resolution on that. I will make the alternate motion to PBI this bill this go around. But I will continue to have those conversations with Senator Newman and immigration attorneys in the off-season. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion to PBI. Second. All right, and there's your other discussion. If I could just say, Senator Boysko, there's nothing about this one that's easy.
Right.
And much of your debate is right in line. I know Senator Chase, it's right in line, right? In-state tuition is a tough thing. I think we need to fix it. I don't think we need to be, I mean, we can talk about the wall and we can talk about all the stuff. We need to fix these problems.
Yeah.
We need a federal immigration fix that helps us work our way through it. So you have been very passionate about this. You've been very patient moving it around. I told Senator Chase I would work with her and her sister-in-law in regards to it. In case it doesn't pass, I'd be glad to continue to work with you and try to work out a pathway. But thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. And I realize that this is a heated topic,
Yeah.
and it pulls people in different directions. I just hope we can continue the conversation. And, you know, I know I've had a number of discussions with you, Senator Chase, and I'm very grateful for it. I hope that we can come to a resolution together where we can all be on the same page, and I appreciate it today.
Well, that's very kind. Any other comments? If not, the motion is that we pass by indefinitely. All those in favor of pass by indefinitely will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. The clerk will close the roll.
Thank you.
Yeas 8, nays 7.
8-7, the bill is passed by. Senator Boysko, thank you very much. And I'm getting your name right?
Boysko.
Boysko, I'm getting your name right.
Yeah, like the word boys.
Not like the drink, but the Boysko.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great. Thanks for coming by. All right, up next, we will take, Senator Chase, you have a second bill, which is the Election Day bill. Why don't we take up that bill? If you don't mind going around front, we'll deal with that bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This is Senate Bill 1223. And what we're trying to do here, there was a study that was done for school safety to determine what happened in Chesterfield specifically. And one of the challenges that we specifically had on Election Day in the general election is that particularly in our elementary schools and our middle schools, that when voters were attempting to vote, the parking lot was already full of teachers and parents coming to vote, and there's a lot of confusion. And in fact, there was a court injunction that was filed there, that would force the polling locations to stay open an extra 2 hours at several precincts. And we had a huge turnout, and I'm excited to see the amount of participation. At a couple of particular polling locations, we had 2.5-hour waits all day. People were having a really difficult time to vote at the polls for a number of reasons. But the number one issue that we identified was the lack of parking space, especially at the elementary and middle schools. And so this bill is an attempt to try to make sure that we have plenty of parking for our voters. And the bill, as it is written, says that it prohibits local school boards from requiring students to attend school on the second Tuesday in June or the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. The bill also prohibits parent-teacher conferences and meetings from being held on those days. Mr. Chairman, I would like to offer an amendment to strike the Tuesday in June, which is typically a primary date. There's a lot of consternation regarding to the end of school. So I would just prefer to take that off the table at this point and strike out the second Tuesday in June and simply leave it for the November, the first Monday, I'm sorry, it should be,
I think you got it right. I think
Yeah,
it's
okay, yeah.
Tom, you report the amendment. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Chase, on line 43, after on, strike the second Tuesday in June, or, so it would read, to attend school on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that'll take care of the true issue that we have. It's not always necessarily the primary date, but the general election in November. And I would also add to that, Mr. Chairman, this is a public safety issue for our kids. The number of outsiders that are coming to the schools, we're talking about elementary schools, middle schools, where they typically have the schools on lockdown. You have to press a button to go into the buildings. And I think that we are totally, we need to put our children first in their security and their safety.
Okay, thank you very much. Well done. Okay, the amendment, we have the amendment. It's been reported. There's a motion on the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Opposed, no, and the amendment's agreed to. Are there those that are here to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. Our members have long stressed the concern about having the number of visitors in schools on Election Day. For those of you that vote, particularly in the elementary schools, where oftentimes the voting area is not able to be secured into the school building, this is a really big and important issue. The description around parent-teacher conferences in the parking lots is certainly another tremendous issue. Again, we are very supportive of this legislation and are grateful to the senator for bringing it.
Well, we appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Council, Prince William. This has been a legislative priority for us in years past, so we very much support this bill and would have preferred its original version, but we're very happy with this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, brief
Yes,
question.
Senator Suderline.
Is there anything prohibiting Prince William County schools from setting the calendar so that they don't go to school on Election Day? In Roanoke County, we don't have school on Election Day in the general election in November, and we don't have election on primary day, in part because we've already finished. I don't think there's any prohibition from the schools currently making this decision. I think this is taking authority away from school divisions.
I'm advised you are correct, Senator.
So just to make sure, I mean, this means that school divisions that are making the other decision can't make that decision, is that what you said? Okay. All right, I didn't see. Okay, very good. Those that are here to speak in favor of the bill. There's those that have some concerns about the bill.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Stacey Haney with the School Boards Association. We do have concerns with the bill for a couple of reasons. First of all, this bill dictates that no school in the Commonwealth can have students attend on Election Day. Not all schools in the Commonwealth are used as polling places. So we're shutting down every single school in the Commonwealth on Election Day. That's what the bill does. And
Tom, is that correct? I'm sorry. Is that what this bill does?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So we have a concern with that. We also have a concern with the General Assembly telling school boards that we can't even have meetings in our buildings that we own on Election Day. Again, regardless of whether the building is used as a polling place. Under this bill, we couldn't even have a meeting in a building that we own, and I would suggest that that is likely unconstitutional, and we would ask that you defeat the legislation.
Tom Smith, Superintendent's Association. I appreciate the patron working around the primary, but we also got concerns about the same concerns with regard to Election Day. We do have my own school division. We were not polling places. They were held in other spots in the county, and so we would be concerned about the bill.
Great, thank you. Senator Chase, you want to just clean up?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to address Senator Suderline's question, I think the challenges, and as we have seen, I think it's important that we set a statewide precedent to shut down the school systems because you have such a difference in opinions from locality to locality. This is for the safety of our kids. It's to protect our elections, to make sure that people can vote. And I think it's the one day of the year. There's so many other holidays that the students have, work days, 3-day off, half periods. I mean, I just think it makes sense to protect our kids on one of the single most day when you have so many outsiders coming to visit our schools, that we have a consistent state policy as it regards to safety and voting and protecting every vote to make sure that every single person in the Commonwealth has the ability to access parking. And it may not be that way in rural Virginia, but in suburbia where I live, and I drove around the parking lot 4 times trying to just find a parking space and went inside, and there was a 2.5-hour wait all the way. We have to do something. The localities may have the ability to do it, but it's interfering with our elections whenever they don't. I think we need a consistent policy on it.
Great, thank you very much. Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do represent rural counties. Roanoke County has some rural parts, but most of us live places that look a lot like Chesterfield, Fairfax, Prince William. It's very suburban, and I also represent the city of Salem, which is a great small city. But so this isn't a rural versus urban issue. I think this is something that if there's a parking issue at a polling location, that's something that you bring up with the local electoral board. And that's something that we've done in Roanoke County. The electoral board has the authority to change the polling locations, and they get to work with their board of supervisors or city council. And in a large jurisdiction like Chesterfield or Fairfax, or Prince William, I have trouble believing that there's nowhere else to vote. I know that for a long time, Pope's Head Precinct in Fairfax County voted at a church right there on Ox Road. I know there's churches in Fairfax and all those other places. There are other public buildings that would love to welcome people to vote in them.
Mr.
And let
Chairman.
me please just finish this. I think this is something for the local place to decide. I don't think it's fair for Richmond to come to other school divisions and tell them you can't have parent-teacher conferences on one of the days that's the best for them. That's one of their highest attended days.
Mr.
And I think
Chairman.
that takes that away from something that's vitally important.
Mr. Chairman, I would respond to the gentleman by saying that whenever we have to, number one, protect the integrity of the vote and allow that every person has access. That's not happened. We've had numerous situations in Chesterfield, particularly, that have come to my attention, and I think that it is extremely important that we adopt this measure so that every person has the opportunity to vote.
Okay, very good. We understand. Very good. Okay, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. While the bill is well-intentioned, first off, it was mentioned long lines and waits at the polls. This bill's not going to have anything to do to impact that. Once you get into the polls, basically, if you're in line, you're in line. I understand the parking issue part of it, but the long lines will not be affected by the passage or non-passage of this bill. What really does concern me, in the city of Chesapeake, we probably have 65 or 70 schools between elementary, intermediate, middle, and high schools. And probably 7 of those schools are used as polling places. So that means we're closing down all the schools throughout the city of Chesapeake or Virginia Beach or wherever for those individual schools. So I think it's a pretty big impact on the local schools, and I would associate my comments with the gentleman from Roanoke County that we probably ought to leave this to the school boards, and so I won't be able to support the bill.
Senator Carrico.
Mr. Chairman, this is a very wide-spreading effect on all schools across the state. I would make the motion to PBI with a letter from the chair to have the school boards look at, or the Department of Education to look at what impact this would have on the states if we were to do this.
Okay. Senator Chase, we may vote for it, I may not, but if not, I'd be glad to have them look at it and also look at maybe schools that aren't polling places and a few other things. So.
Mr. Speaker, I would just add that our Speaker of the House is also in favor of this bill.
Oh, I like him. So, okay. There's a motion second that we PBI the bill with the letter. All those in favor of PBI will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll. Oh, wait a second. Had Donovan is aye.
Thank you.
Yep. Senator Chase, if you'd work with me on the letter, I'd be glad to work on that. We need to, if the school is not a polling place, maybe work on that a little bit. And there's some rural counties we can work on
Okay,
too.
thank you.
Okay, Senator Carrico. So you have a couple of bills. You want to take up your University of Virginia College at Wise first?
That'll be fine, Mr. Chairman.
Do you mind if Senator Stanley goes just, he
I
came
do.
over from there?
I do mind.
I think we have some, you're a little bit twins in your suits today.
We called each other. Yeah, we coordinated.
All right. All right. The committee will take their attention to Senate Bill 1331. We heard this bill last week, I think it was, and then we asked to clarify some of the solar items, and then we have a substitute. There's a motion on substitute. Motion is second that we support the substitute. All those in favor will say aye. Opposed, no. And the substitute's agreed to. Senator Stanley, I don't think we need the full presentation, but a quick one would be.
Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with what presentation we made. The substitute incorporates the amendments that the chairman had brought to my attention to make sure that this was narrowly tailored to not allow some large solar farm to kind of crop up near our school and then use what we're trying to do, which is to allow school divisions to basically build energy net positive buildings and be able to transfer that onto the grid if it's net positive. And so what we're doing here now is it just pertains to the schools, but I think we fully discussed it before. So I'd ask that you.
So just to
give
be
it favorable
clear, before we had a concern that you could have a school system that could partner with a massive solar farm area and basically get around the State Corporation Commission by doing that. I think this amendment does make sure that it meets with the intent, which is they could supply basically their own power or equivalent close thereby too. Is that right, Mr. Dix? Is that right? Senator Cosgrove.
I'd ask the senator, Mr. Chairman, does this have anything to do with SEC or distance tolling or contractual unconstitutional issues?
I hope not, because I'm hoping this passes.
That's good enough. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is there other questions about
Very
the bill?
funny,
Is there
Senator
a
Cosgrove.
motion on the bill as amended? All right. There's a motion is second that the bill as amended be reported. All those in favor will record your votes aye. What? I'm sorry. Would you mind if we said we report and re-refer? Finance just want to take a look at it. Bill, I don't know why, but that's what they wanted. So with that, the motion to report and re-refer is 1331. We'll meet this afternoon. Should be able to take care of it. Okay. Clerk will report the vote.
Yeas 13, nays 1.
All right, the bill is reported and re-referred.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Senator Carrico, we'll go back up. Okay. Senator Carrico, we're going to go back to the University, the Virginia College at Wise, and then you have one other bill, and then a couple of others, and then we will be able to hopefully finish up pretty quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill, Senate Bill 1519, dealing with the University of Virginia College at Wise, is an effort in order to be able to allow them to reach out into the Appalachian region to reduce the tuition rates for students to enroll there at the University of Wise. Several other states have done this surrounding Virginia, and this just puts University of Virginia at Wise on a level playing field for recruitment of students and not having to lose more Virginia students to those states that are around us that are offering reduced tuition to them. There was a question that came up about states that allow in-state tuition to illegal citizens. That does not apply to this because University of College at Wise has to abide by the regulations and policies set by Virginia when they enter students into that college for purposes of this.
Okay. Senator Suderline, you okay now? Does that make sense to you, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I just spoke last week. I said I'm not enthusiastic about giving, what I said at the time was I'm not enthusiastic about giving in-state tuition to non-Virginians, just period. I don't think there's anything prohibiting a Virginia school from lowering the out-of-state tuition. But I think if we say something's a benefit to Virginians, I think it ought to remain that. I also raised the question that the Senator Carrico, the patron, mentioned. I appreciate his comment on that. And that makes me feel a lot better, but I still have that
Okay. All right, very good.
previous
Senator,
concern.
right, Senator Carrico, do you have anyone that came a long way to speak to it?
I don't know if someone's here. I know someone from the governor's office. I don't know if Sim Ewing's here today or not. I
Okay,
think
we'll hear certainly from the
I think
governor's
he's
office. Welcome.
tried to meet with everybody.
That's right. Come forward, yeah. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Fran Bradford, Deputy Secretary of Education. Just here to say we appreciate the Senator carrying this legislation and support the effort that UVA-wise is undertaking under this bill.
Great.
So happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Anyone else here speak in favor of it? Anyone to speak in opposition to it? Senator Carrico, isn't it reasonable to say that this college is a college that needs more students?
It is, and I think the reason for the legislation is to be able to compete with Kentucky and Tennessee that's already gone down this path of offering reduced tuition for out-of-state students, and we're losing Virginia students by that, by those colleges.
All right, is there a motion on the bill and re-refer to finance? All those in favor will record your votes aye. Those no. The bill is reported. Oh, Senator, the clerk will announce them.
Yeas 11, nays 2.
11 to 2, the bill is reported and re-referred to finance. Thank you, Senator Carrico. You have one more bill, is that right, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was in the subcommittee, but I also have someone here to testify today. We won't take up much time. This is dealing with the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament and New Testament being an elective for students to be able to be taught in a curriculum of literacy for that for the Old Testament, New Testament scriptures. This came about, I understood it, and spoke to a gentleman, a legislator from Arkansas last year, and there is a line amendment that basically says the Board of Education shall authorize local school boards to do so. This puts it in line with what Arkansas did, and it makes it discretionary for local school boards to set this up, but it outlines the criteria in which they do it.
Okay.
So I would move that.
The amendment, yes, sir. So the amendment is moved and seconded. It basically says that is the board, local school board that makes the decision, or is it the Board of Education that authorizes?
The Board of Education shall authorize the local school boards to do so.
Okay. And is it on their request, or how does that work?
In my understanding, there's an outline of the criterias in which they have to set the curriculum up, and then they can choose to do so.
Perfect. So Tom, could you work with Paige, just make sure on whether or not they have to apply for it? I think right now they don't. Is that right, sir?
Certainly, local school boards, under the amendment, would have the local option. It's mirroring the subsection A, the Board of Education shall authorize local school boards to offer comparative religion, that's old language. So subsection B would be the same. Essentially, it would be at the discretion of local school boards.
It would be the discretion of local school boards, Tom, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do you have anyone here to speak in favor
I
of the bill,
do.
sir?
I have Bill Jeans, who has been educated through the University of Chicago and Harvard University, flew in from California to speak to this bill. When I spoke to the legislator from Arkansas, I thought how much more appropriate, being the oldest governing body celebration this year of 400 years, and all our intertwined knowledge of how we became a government through biblical principles and scriptures. And I'm going to have him speak to the bill and what all the other states are doing as far as this curriculum is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As an educational professor, I not only teach about educational history, but Most of my publications have been on meta-analyses, which I will explain in just a moment, and I'm going to draw from that. And if you're not familiar with a meta-analysis, don't feel bad, because most people aren't familiar with a meta-analysis. What a meta-analysis is you take all of the studies that have ever been done on a particular subject, combine them statistically, and the results summarize what the existing body of research indicates. And what I'm here to say to you today is basically 4 arguments why I believe the Bible as Literature course should be passed. First of all, it's hard to imagine that a person in America can be considered educated unless they have at least a working knowledge of the Bible. The Bible is the most influential book in the history of our country, probably the most influential book in the history of the world. And in fact, many of the great classics of literature, many of the great authors assume the reader has a working knowledge of the Bible. For example, William Shakespeare alone cites the Bible 1,300 times. And hard enough to read Shakespeare if you're struggling with Old English, but all the more difficult if in fact you are not familiar with the Bible. And also many of the great works of literature, such as the Grapes of Wrath, and many of the great authors, such as Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Charles Dickens, and so forth, you really cannot understand unless you have at least a working knowledge of the Bible. Second reason why we should pass this bill is because the U.S. Supreme Court has declared that the teaching of Bible as literature in the public schools is constitutional. Reading from the Supreme Court decision of 1963, Abington versus Shemp, the U.S. Supreme Court stated that the teaching of the Bible as literature is acceptable as long as, and I quote, it is presented objectively as part of a secular program of education. A third reason why we should pass this bill is because the knowledge of the Bible will help one to understand the history of all 6 inhabited continents. Certainly our history, both the pre-Revolutionary War history and Revolutionary War history, as well as the Civil Rights Movement, and even the importance of realizing that Martin Luther King was a Baptist minister. It will also help us to understand the history of other nations as well. And fourthly, knowledge of the Bible will enhance one's understanding of people of faith generally, including those of other religions. East Asia is expected to surpass North America as the area of the world with the most Christians. China is estimated to have 100 million Christians. South Korea has the largest church in the world, and also 5 of the top 10 largest churches in the world. We need to understand these people, and certainly if we understand the Bible and religion, this will help. Also, as the U.S. becomes increasingly secular, it will make it more difficult for Americans to relate to other religions as well. If there are other nations that have certain religious convictions and we're unfamiliar with even the religious convictions emanating from the Bible, it'll make it more difficult for us to understand the religious convictions of others. Now, in terms of the meta-analysis, one of the reasons why a meta-analysis is so powerful is, again, it presents a statistical summary of the entire body of literature. And I have 3 published studies examining the effects of Bible literacy, including a meta-analysis. And one of the interesting things in the meta-analysis of all the studies that have ever been done on this topic, all of the studies indicate a positive relationship between high Bible literacy and high academic achievement. There's not even one that has a negative or neutral association. Also, the difference is considerable. Generally speaking, in all 3 of these studies, the difference between students who were high in Bible literacy versus those who were low in Bible literacy was more than 1 full grade point. And just to cite one study, for example, the difference for high school students was between 3.6 average GPA for those high in Bible literacy and a 2.47 again for those students low in Bible literacy. So on the basis of these historical arguments, the Constitution, as well as statistical analysis and meta-analysis, I strongly encourage the committee to vote yes on this bill.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Well, you did it within the 5-minute limit. That's well done. Very good. Are there those that have some concern? I'll put up the same clock. Welcome. Let me do this and that, and now you're going.
Thank you. Is there a copy of the substitute? We have been trying to get our hands on one all morning and not been able to do so. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Shelton Miles, resident of Campbell County in the heart of Virginia, retired pastor representing the Baptist General Association of Virginia. Greetings from our Executive Director, John Upton. He wishes for you grace and peace this day. Our forebears, Virginia Baptist, under the establishment over 200 years ago, were jailed for preaching the gospel without a license. We provided the political muscle for Mr. Jefferson to help pass the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. We exercised political muscle upon Mr. Madison to cause him to offer the First Amendment with both of its clauses to the U.S. Constitution. We have very strong convictions about non-establishment and the free exercise clauses and the practice, driven by our core conviction that an individual's relationship to his God is a deeply personal matter, that it must be voluntary in nature, and it should be free of any coercive elements, including governmental coercion. We routinely have advocated for the government maintaining a high degree of separation from religion. In 1925, the pastor of First Baptist Church, Richmond, Dr. George McDaniel, who was also at that time the sitting president of the Southern Baptist Convention, in a speech before the Virginia Senate, opposed a bill for mandatory Bible reading in the public schools on the grounds that it violated religious liberty. Not only a constitutional right, but beyond that, a fundamental human right. After Dr. McDaniel's presentation, the bill went down to defeat. If Bible reading is unconstitutional and a violation of religious liberty in 1925, then Bible teaching certainly should be unconstitutional and a violation of religious liberty today. So we stand opposed to this bill, admitting that the amendment slightly improves it. It places the government in the position of using its coercive taxing powers to fund the public school teachers and classrooms in the furtherance of what is necessity, a religious cause. We don't believe that the government should favor any religion or religious viewpoint, including our own. The current statute allows for study of comparative religions, teaching about them, but not what will essentially be a Bible survey course. The Christian Bible, and that's what we're talking about here, a reference to the Hebrew scriptures notwithstanding, incidentally contains a vast array of supporting characters. It touches upon a fair amount of history. It consistently expresses a pre-scientific worldview as would be expected from an ancient text, but it's not a book about history or biography or collection of biography for a treatise on science or a book of laws. It is a book whose leading character, whose star, if you would, is God Almighty.
Mr. Miles, let me slow you down just a bit. We have about 1:50. I'm particularly interested in your thoughts, but there are going to have to be a number of other people that want to also speak in that short amount of time. We don't want to miss your main point. If you could get us to that for review, that would be helpful.
Mr. Chairman, did we get the substitute?
There is a line amendment.
Just a line amendment.
And if you'd
Okay,
like,
that's
at
fine,
the
Mr.
right
Chairman.
time, we'll re-report. It
I thought it was-
basically makes it a local option, but Council, could you share that with
I just
him?
thought there was a substitute floating around. That's okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Miles, please continue.
The Bible's not a neutral book, and I don't see how it can really be presented to students as a neutral book. This bill singles out the Christian sacred text without others. I suppose that you could focus on texts that have influenced public policy, but if you do that, you're going to have to talk about patriarchy and the suppression of women, racism, white supremacy, defenses of slavery, segregation, holy war, and a host of issues that showed the Bible being misused in our past. Frankly, I fear that in the hands of the wrong teacher,
this bill could be an instrument for a class that becomes an anti-Christian screed.
Okay.
There's mischief in the bill, and I would ask you to defeat it, or in the alternative, to attach a reenactment clause so we can work out some of the problems in it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming by. Yes, welcome.
Greetings. My name is Jonathan Davis. I am a resident and a pastor in Essex County, Virginia at Beale Memorial Baptist Church, and I am here on behalf of the Religious Liberty Committee of the Baptist General Association of Virginia in strong and unanimous opposition to Bill 1502. I echo many of my colleagues' concerns about the bill, and to that I would add that as a committee who focuses on religious liberty, we are strongly opposed to any coercive use of the government's power of taxation to mandate or require secondary schools teach an elective course in Christianity or the Bible. This mandate would be a very decidedly backward step for religious liberty and also a gross violation of the Establishment Clause.
Okay, listen, we're out of town, but you're opposed, your group is opposed for the
Very
reasons
much.
you mentioned. Also, if we could just hear, I think the governor's office has a position, or the department.
Yes, Zach Robbins, Department of Education, the administration opposes the bill. The board does not establish standards of learning for electives currently, and this would have a fiscal impact.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for that. Yes, yes. and you
Mr.
guys are
Chairman, members
opposed?
of the committee, Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. We actually have this on a watch list, but I felt the need to stay on it, and my members would want me to. I just wanted to point out, while this elective may indeed have a correlation for high student achievement, so does additional school counselors, small class size, highly effective and supportive teachers, and engaged and healthy families.
Okay, very good. Thanks for coming by. Senator Carrico, that's the pros and the cons. Can you clean up for us, sir?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you heard from the presenter earlier, this has been proven that it brings forth more students to be able to excel. It teaches a lot about all other religions. It teaches a lot about where people stand with the Christianity faith, and it's one of the largest growing faiths in other countries. And if we're going to be a country that reaches out to other communities, then this is much needed if those students elect to take the course.
So, Senator Carrico, just to make sure we're in the proper place.
A little amazed by the Baptist ministers. I
Tom,
would just say that.
So also
They
to
should
Tom,
read Matthew 7:22 and 23.
Tom, and to the council.
I'm sure they hadn't studied it.
The Tom and the council, this is just more technical. I just want to make sure, we asked you to put in an amendment, and you kindly did, because we weren't going to force it, we're going to ask for locals, right? So the amendment, just the way it reads, just want to make sure I understand. The locals need to ask the board, or does the board promulgate and then the locals decide? How does that amendment that we asked to narrow the bill work?
I would ask the department how they currently deal with comparative religion classes, just to clarify.
Welcome back, yes.
So as it states, the board shall authorize, each local school board decides whether or not they provide that course. And it is, the comparative religion is an acceptable course provided by the statute. So we do, it's not a one-by-one division review.
Okay, stay there for a minute, okay? Tom?
Further question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Does the board have standards for standards of learning for
The
comparative
board is
religion?
not, there are not state-established standards for comparative religion.
Thank you.
Stay there just a minute. Tom, what's your answer now?
I would say then that the amendment would say that this is a local option and would not require the Board of Education to establish standards of learning.
Is that your interpretation of it?
As it's currently.
With the amendment, yes, sir. Is it a local option is what I'm really getting at.
That would establish it as a local option, but it would still direct the board to establish the standards.
Got it. So, but, okay, that's helpful. Thank you for your help. All right, Senator Carrico, that's helpful. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
And you're okay with the amendment that we've already
okay with
placed
the
on?
amendment.
We've placed the amendment on the bill, is that correct, guys? Patty,
We
have we
already
placed the amendment on the bill?
adopted
Have we put the amendment on? Okay, it's already been adopted. All right, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. There's a motion, second, the bill be reported, and Senator,
Mr. Chairman, I was one of the no votes in the subcommittee, and I just have a comment with regard to the bill. I think that given that this is 400 years of this General Assembly, I just want to cite two of our founders with regard to religion. Thomas Jefferson drafted a bill that guaranteed legal equality for citizens of all religion, including those of no religion in the state. It was around that time that Jefferson famously wrote, "But it does me no injury for my neighbor to say there are 20 gods." Ooh, this is small writing. Or no God, it neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg. But Jefferson's plan did not advance until after Patrick Henry introduced the bill in 1784. Future President James Madison stepped into the breach in a carefully argued essay entitled Memorial and Remonstrance Against Religious Assessments. The soon-to-be father of the Constitution eloquently laid out reasons why the state had no business supporting Christian instruction. Signed by some 2,000 Virginians, Madison's argument became a fundamental piece of American political philosophy, a ringing endorsement of the secular state that should be as familiar to students of American history as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Among Madison's 15 points was his declaration that the religion then of every man must be left to the conviction and conscience of every man to exercise it as these may dictate. This right is in its nature an inalienable right. Madison also made a point that any believer of any religion should understand that the government sanction of a religion was in essence a threat to religion. Who does not see, he wrote, that the same authority which can establish Christianity in exclusion of all other religions may establish with the same ease any particular sect of Christians in exclusion of all other sects. Madison was writing from his memory of Baptist ministers being arrested in his native Virginia. Mr. Chairman, I find it inappropriate to carve out one religion to the exclusion of other religions in this state and offer it in this manner.
Thank you, Senator Locke. Well done. All right, Senator Carrico, one question just to you. We've worked with you to have the amendment where it's not mandatory across the state. There's no intent to take that off, right? We're planning to go with it, leaving it local option. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
All right, very good. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move to report
as amended.
Substitute motion?
There's a substitute motion stated? Yes?
Yes, move that the bill be PBI.
There's a motion and a second that we PBI the bill. All those in favor of PBI will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll. How would you like to be recorded, sir? Yeah, strike the board, please. All those in favor of the motion to PBI the bill will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 6, nays 8, 1 abstention.
8-6, the bill is not PBI. The primary motion is to report. Clerk, clear the roll. Yeah. And those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 8, nays 6, abstentions 1.
All right. The bill's reported. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Senator Lucas, you want to go next? Is that okay with you? Yes. Okay. Well, up next, because we need to get this to finance also, I think we'd better hear 1750. If the committee will bring their attention to 1750. Senator Lucas, welcome. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I introduced Senate Bill 1750 for two of the rural community hospitals in my district, Southampton Memorial Hospital in the city of Franklin and Southern Virginia Regional Medical Center in the city of Emporia. These two hospitals are part of a group, approximately 25 hospitals that participated in a supplemental payment program. You will recall that some years ago, the governor's office directed DMAS to file state plans amended to obtain federal approval for this program. The two state plans amendments were approved by CMS at the federal level, and the state plan amended amendments are referenced in this legislation. What this bill does is it authorizes a locality who imposes an assessment on the local hospital to transfer those funds to DMAS, and then DMAS will obtain the federal match under the approval stated state plan amendments. This bill does not require the expenditure of any state or local tax dollars. This bill has nothing to do with Medicaid expansion. This only applies to the hospitals who participated in the 2 state plan amendments. Is Mr. Chairman gone?
Well,
Oh.
he's up here.
Okay, all right, and Mr. Chairman, I would like to have a testimony on behalf of my experts, please.
All right, please, step forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Scott Johnson. I'm here today on behalf of Community Health System. They own the hospital in Franklin, Emporia, and in Petersburg. Senator Lucas gave you a good explanation. This is not Medicaid expansion. This is a program that's previously been approved, and all this bill does is let the local government, if they assess the hospital, transfer the money to DMAS. The city of Franklin and the city of Emporia, by unanimous resolution, their city councils have adopted that, saying they want to do this, and we just need the legislation to authorize it. That's all it does.
Yes, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. I'm relatively supportive of the bill. One thing I want to know, though, the hospital gets the dollar, they send the dollar to DMAS. DMAS sends the dollar to the feds send $2 back. How much is the hospital actually going to get back? How much is DMAS going to charge as a pass-through? And how much is actually going to get back to the organization?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Senator Cosgrove, that has not been determined yet because that is one of the items that has to be determined at DMAS with the state plan amendments, and we've not gotten to that point yet. I'll be glad to answer your question when it's determined. I can tell you in other states where it's done, usually the agency just keeps an administrative fee, what it costs them to operate it. They usually don't grab money out of it and use it for something else.
Oh, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Cosgrove.
Was making no assertion they would take it out and use it for something else. I just want to make sure that administrative fee isn't close to a payday lender.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Gotcha.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? I'm sorry, okay, hearing none. Senator Black.
Mr. Chairman, it's still not entirely clear to me what is the genesis of the funds that are coming in? Where do they come from, or what compels them to go into this fund?
Mr. Chairman, to Senator Black's question, the purpose of this supplemental payment program is to help these hospitals who are financially challenged to continue to maintain the level of services that they're providing for their clients, or for their, yes.
Senator Black.
Mr. Chairman, and I understand the use of the funds, but what is it that generates? Is it a fee? Is it a tax? Or just what creates those funds, brings them into being?
Mr. Chairman, if I could give you an example, I'll just use the city of Franklin. Okay, they would adopt an ordinance that would apply an assessment to their hospital, and that assessment's going to be tagged to how much Medicaid services that hospital provides. And for sake of argument, say it's $1. The hospital gives the city $1. The city then gives DMAS that same dollar.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just a final question. So what we're talking about is localities imposing some sort of a fee or tax or whatever that would be collected and would then go to supplement the Medicaid program?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. No one's here to speak in opposition to it. Senator, before we take a vote on this, Scott, you need to know this too. It has to go to finance. We probably need to huddle up with Mike upstairs. There is some concerns that it could hurt the entire program if we're not careful in how we structure it. And so I'm all in. I'm going to vote yes. When we get upstairs, we probably need to have a pretty big huddle up. George, you may want to be a part of that because it's just some concerns that CMS could, if we did this, do some other things that could impact our Medicaid program. That's a concern.
And Mr. Chairman, that's certainly not our intent. We don't want to
I
interfere
understand.
with last year's provider assessment or contaminate anything, so glad
Yes,
to
sir.
work with you and Mike.
Well, great. Thank you.
No, we definitely don't want to contaminate anything.
Yeah. Okay. Since Senator Lucas, we love her, what's the motion? There's a motion and a second. We report the bill and re-refer to finance. All those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you.
Yeas 14, nays 1.
All right, the bill is reported. Up next, so I've got a bill, and then we have some more coming from the committee. Would the committee mind if I did my bill briefly? Object.
We've heard of the chair.
Send it to finance, right?
And I am in the wrong chair. My chair, let's see.
Senator Newman. And what is the bill?
1728.
1721, 28.
1728. Mr. Chairman, there's a amendment or a substitute to the bill.
All right. I've got the amendment, the substitute being handed out. Do I have a motion on the substitute? Motion on the substitute?
Yes, so moved.
Okay, I have a motion and second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, we have the substitute before us.
Mr. Chairman, basically, most of the bill is gone. It does repeal the SOL Innovation Committee work. They have done their work for a good while. I've served on that committee and others have. We now have a board that has a SOL pathway. We also have a minimum standards out there. This does take off all the conflict of interest. The administration brought me the amendment nature of substitute to consider, and we'll let them speak for themselves, but I think we have agreement on this substitute, sir. So if you'd allow people who want to speak in favor or in opposition.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone to speak in favor or opposition?
Senator Holly Coy, Deputy Secretary of Education. As the Senator said, the committee has been in existence for some time now, and I think we've all agreed that they have served their purpose well and have come to an agreement about the end of their term.
Okay, thank you very much. Others? All right, it looks like a fairly simple sort of a house cleaning. Did we have one more? Please step forward. Oh, okay, okay. Just stretching your legs or?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. We are hopeful that the SOL Innovation Committee can continue, that we can continue to bring in the subject matter experts and the legislators to take a good look at our SOL, standards of learning here in Virginia, and the assessments we use and how we use them, and to ensure that students are not just learning to check boxes on tests, but actually meaningful learning that will be helpful to them as they advance towards career and life in general. So we are in opposition to this bill.
Okay, so you're in opposition. Any other comments?
Parliamentary inquiry?
Yes,
Have we adopted the substitute?
yes,
Okay, great.
we have.
A lot's happened today. Second reporting the substitute.
I have a motion and second to report the substitute. Please record your vote. This is to report the substitute. Okay. we
Yeas
have,
15, nays 0.
All right, thank you very much. All right, do you have another bill?
I do not. Do I have another bill? Okay. I think we need Senator Carrico or someone that can help us give the rest of that report. So I'll come back. Can you do it? Sure. No, I can. Yeah, right. So what we will do is we will go through the rest of that. The rest are in subcommittee, Tom, is that right?
It was heard in subcommittee several weeks ago. Right.
Okay, why don't we take up your bill, and then we'll hopefully get Mr. Carrico back for other items. So, could you give us the number of your bill?
It's 1269.
All right, if you'll turn your attention to 1269, It was in subcommittee, a 2-2, no recommendation a few weeks ago. But Senator Carrico, why don't you tell us about that bill and the amendments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, the bill would allow school divisions scheduling flexibility in the event they are required to close due to a governor-mandated evacuation for weather or life-threatening emergency. There is an amendment to the bill that I'd like to offer. The clerk.
Okay. Tom, will you report to amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Cosgrove, on line 64, after the code reference at the end of the line, insert for up to 5 teaching days.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move this amendment, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion and a second that the amendment be agreed to. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, and the amendment's agreed to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill as amended would allow localities without a waiver from the Department of Education to exempt 5 teaching days from the calendar if those days were lost due to a mandated evacuation declared by the governor. In the past, we've talked about, we have this 180-day sacrosanct rule. But even now, when we have snow days, et cetera, the kids still aren't going to school 180 days. They're going to school and maybe taking 10 minutes at the end of the day or 15 minutes at the end of the day or whatever. But the 180-day thing is it's an image. It's not a reality. What this will do, it allow the school districts, without a waiver from Department of Education, to still meet all the requirements of the SOLs and the benchmarks, the SOQs. But it will give them the latitude, to basically, take care of those school days that were mandated because of state action.
We appreciate you working on this bill. Are those that are here in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Stacey Haney on behalf of the School Boards Association. We're in support of this legislation. It's really limited to just those situations where the governor, issues a mandatory evacuation. So this isn't something that's going to let us cancel school for just any reason we want. It's really narrowly tailored just to give us some flexibility when we have to evacuate. And so it's something we hope we don't have to use again, but if it happens again, this would just give us a little bit of flexibility.
All right, next.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Jordan, representing Chesapeake Public Schools. And remember, like Ms. Haney said, it's in that 1 year when this occurs. This is not an ongoing rolling waiver, so it's important that you understand that. This is critical, especially since we've gone to the new evacuation standards Emergency Services is using, and the Chesapeake School Board is in full support. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Smith, Pacific Rim Association, we're in support.
Hello.
Mr. Chairman, John Husband for the Norfolk School Board, and we strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Joel Andrews, representing Virginia Beach City Public Schools. I'm sorry I sprinted from Commerce and Labor over here, but we also support the bill. Thank you.
Thanks for coming by. Anyone that has some concerns about the bill as amended? Janet, you okay? Okay. Anyone that has concern, John, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, again, the bill as amended is a very narrow carve-out. I want to make sure that everybody understands there is no criticism of the administration of taking mandatory evacuations. He needs to do his job, and he's doing it. This is just basically giving the school boards the latitude to, actually get the proper schooling done.
Okay.
So with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Any comment from the members on this bill? Hearing none, is there a motion on the bill? It's a motion, and there's a second on the bill as amended. All those in favor will record your vote aye. Those opposed, no. Vote Sasslaw. Okay, and the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 10, nays 3, abstentions 1.
All right, 10,
Thank you, Mr.
3, 1, the bill is reported. Okay. So now we have items, Tom, do we have anything else that's not in the subcommittee reports? Yeah. So we do, I think the biggest item is probably going to be Senator Black's bill. Senator Black, if you want to go around front and do yours. We're not going to have a big public hearing on this, sir, if you don't mind. We've heard this before and heard it in subcommittee. This is the
Thank you very
17
much.
17, is, the bill, what's the bill number?
This is Senate Bill 1718,
Did we,
and it deals with dyslexia screening.
okay, just a second, Tom. Okay. Senator Howell, are you ready to discuss this bill at this time? This is the one on dyslexia.
And there was a substitute distributed.
And we distributed, did we adopt a substitute earlier this morning? You did, okay. Very good. Everyone, we've had kind of that discussion. Senator Black, why don't you give us the quick reminder of the bill, and then we'll go to the committee members.
Yes, and what it is basically we test young children using what's called the PALS system. We've done it for 20 years. This does not impact the PALS at all, leaves it alone. However, we've found that dyslexia is not picked up on the PALS system. As a consequence, our reading achievement has been relatively flat for many years. We know from research done by the National Institutes of Health that if we pick up dyslexia at a very, very young age, we can make really major strides in it. And it's done through a RAN test, which is very brief. It's just a couple of minutes, and it's actually available online for free. But it does detect the dyslexia as young as the age of 3. And so what this does is it adds that RAN testing, which is just a 2-minute add-on to the major test without disturbing the major test in any way. Now, the substitute does require that the results of this be provided to the PALS Center at the University of Virginia, and that is something that was worked out along with UVA.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Senator Black. Are there those that would like to speak in favor? And we heard the testimony, I think, so we're going to give you about a minute or so to kind of wrap up, and then we will go from there. So about a minute.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Lorraine Hightower. I'm a state leader for Decoding Dyslexia Virginia, and I've spent 5 years on Loudoun County Public Schools Special Education Advisory Committee reporting on struggling readers to include students with dyslexia. This substitute bill is a result of a collaborative conversation between myself and Drs. McGinty as well as Dr. Solari at the University of Virginia. In subcommittee, they voiced concerns about the original bill, which was a mandate to roll out the PALS with the RAN. This bill does allow the possibility of more than one measure. It keeps their phonemic awareness screening, the PALS. It strengthens the PALS by adding other measures to include the RAN. The Virginia Department of Education supports the RAN assessment in their dyslexia screening recommendations, as well as I do want to reiterate that Senator Black mentioned our NAEP scores at the time that the Senate Joint Resolution on struggling readers and dyslexia was done in 2010. Our reading scores at the state level have stayed stagnant, and we have not seen any improvement in our statewide reading scores. So thank you. This bill would help identify struggling readers, and we're working collaboratively with UVA.
Okay. For those, are you guys in favor of the bill? Or?
We do not have a position on the assessment as she had indicated.
Oh, I understand. Okay. And if you don't mind, because of time, just tell us.
My son is Fox Warner. He's dual exceptional. He was in the 4th percentile for reading, but he still passed PALS. Had we found out earlier with something like the RAN, we could have gotten him help sooner. He's now having to take a private school.
And you're in favor of the substitute, right?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Just very briefly. Yeah.
Yes. Cheryl Lafferty. My son is also was also not caught through the screening. We spent lots of money on tutoring and private school placement. Really, I'm here to advocate for the children that are not being caught.
Great. Thank you very much. So with that, Senator Black, let us hear from those that have some concerns about the bill. I'm going to put a couple minutes on the clock because we went over a little bit. So why don't you let those that have concerns about the bill come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of committee. I'm Trolling Seward, representing the Virginia State Reading Association. Appreciate the opportunity to comment on the substitute for Senate Bill 1718. The test, of course, that's referenced is PALS, And the PALS data is used to inform classroom instruction. RAN, or Rapid Automatic Naming, is not a task that teachers teach, but rather it's an indicator of risk. But the risk cannot be assumed just from RAN. There are other factors that need to factor in. Some studies indicate that RAN may add predictive value when considering long-term reading outcomes. Research is needed, but there is no indication that dollars were attached to this bill. In the written commentary that the two professors provided for members of the subcommittee, it was estimated that the cost could reach $800,000. The enactment clause suggests that we implement and then look at the data. This is contrary to what one would consider good research methods. We do not want to compromise the validity and the reliability of PALS. That has proven to be a valuable tool used by teachers to inform instruction in 131 of the 132 school divisions. We are not opposed to pursuing RAN, but Senate Bill 1718 is putting the cart before the horse.
Great.
We therefore cannot support this bill. We would like to see a solution to the issue we keep dealing with, but again, this bill doesn't do it.
Great, thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for coming by. VA, you're opposed to the bill, is that right?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. We oppose the bill because this is actually a 3-year implementation and then a review of the data. And typically when we're in research mode, we don't release test scores to vast majority of folks. We research first, evaluate. This bill actually, again, requires a full 3-year implementation with release including subset scores to including added language to parents while in research mode. This is contrary to what we heard in subcommittee, and we oppose this bill.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Smith, Superintendent's Association. We're opposed. Got to remember that we give PALS, and also this year we're rolling out the kindergarten readiness test for all kindergartners. This is a lot going on in the classroom, a lot of testing. We don't feel that this one is necessary at this time. Thank you.
Great, thank you for coming by. Senator Black, just maybe 30 seconds to clean up.
I just encourage that this bill pass. The problem that you have is that we've got these other measures, and that's fine, and we don't want to impact any of those. But if we don't detect these children's problems very, very early, then we can't really treat them. If we pick them up early enough, we're going to be able to treat them and literally change their entire lives. So I hope that you'll support the measure.
All right, very good. Senator Cosgrove. There's a motion and a second that we report to substitute. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a topic I know many of us feel really passionately about. Dyslexia can run through families. It's certainly running through mine and my husband's family. And we need to identify the kids really early. So I totally agree with your goal. I disagree, though, with how you're going about it. I don't think you pick one test when there are lots of options, and I don't think you implement it before you know what the ramifications are. So even though this substitute is different, it's still seriously flawed, and I will not support it.
Great. Any other comments? If you don't mind, just Senator Black, this one means a lot to me. You know, I've carried a number of these bills, and I don't think that Senator Howe is wrong in regards to maybe there's some things that are flipped in the bill that maybe we need to work our way through. But I do believe this test is the absolute best test to determining. And if you don't find it, brilliant kids are going to be lost, and that's just the deal.
Right.
That's the deal. I mean, you're just going to have these individuals sometimes with dyslexia are unbelievably bright, but because they're memorizing every word, they're behind early and never catch up. And so I know there's great comments on both sides, but Senator Black, this one kind of means a little more to me than some of them, but you don't mind me saying that. But there is a motion and a second. Does anyone want to speak again in opposition? There's motion and second that the bill be reported. All those in favor record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 8, nays 7.
8-7, the bill's reported. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Black, let's continue to work on it. I think Senator Howell's maybe flipping the processes, maybe that has some merit. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Senator Black. We also now have a bill that Senator Barker had earlier that was PBI. That is Senate Bill 1278 regarding kindergarten. And there are voters here that would like to vote on the bill, and I voted on the prevailing side. The bill was PBI'd. I would so move that the bill that by which we PBI'd 1278 be reconsidered. All those in favor will record your vote aye on reconsideration. All the opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
15-0, the bill is brought back before us. So George, you want to just give us a primer on what we were voting on before?
Sure, Mr. Chair. This bill would require that over the next 3 years, that all the school systems in Virginia move to having full-day kindergarten for every student. We've made tremendous progress over the last 10 years, going from about a dozen school systems that did not have full-day kindergarten for everybody. We're down to 2 now, and both those 2 are moving in the right direction on things and getting to the point where they clearly are approaching that. We want to provide an incentive for them to do this and provide a little bit of incentive for their local governments to provide funding if necessary to do this. It would take effect in July, after July of 2021.
Okay, and everyone that was for it before in the audience, I'm sure they're still for it, right?
Yes.
So, okay, very good. Is there a motion to report the bill?
I move to report the bill.
Just a second. There's a motion second that we report the bill. All those in favor record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 8, nays 7.
8-7, the bill is reported. Well done, Senator Barker. Okay, the last thing we have, Tom, I believe, is Senate Bill 1452. 1452 is not on the agenda, but it was sent back to committee. It was Senator McClellan's bill related to pharmacy licensure and alternative method. She had determined that she was okay for it to come back here, so I think we have to dispose of it. I don't think she expects it to come out. I'd be glad to, what we talked to her on the floor is about let us get together and see what the regulations might look like. She seemed to be okay with that. Is there a motion on the bill that we pass the bill by, but send a letter asking for more information on the regulation? There's a motion and a second. Second. All those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. And the clerk will close the roll.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
15-0, the bill is held back. Tom, does that complete everything?
Yes, sir.
Guys, I'm so grateful. This has been more in a short session than we've ever seen, and we got done 23 minutes early, right? So what are we going to do? Thank you for all your work. So that's it.
Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, sir. All right, very good. Let's go in the